This week we're looking at Psalm 30, which is in particular a psalm of thanks. David says in verse 4, "Oh, sing unto the Lord, O you saints, and give thanks at the remembrance of his holiness." And then down towards verse 12, "To the end that my glory may sing praise to thee, and not be silent. O Lord my God, I will give thanks unto thee forever." So David twice in the psalm references giving God thanks. I've been living all these last 3 days in the remembrance of the night of worship. This past Sunday night was a special service, and it's on the archives and in the live stream archive if you'd like to go see it. And it's a good quality on YouTube if you'd like to hear the music. It was a great night, about an hour and 15 minutes worth of just wonderful music. And then we celebrated the Lord's table and remembered what Jesus did for us. And some of the greatest songs, in fact, I just sung my voice out. My throat is so raw, but it was such a wonderful evening with our church family and such a great glory to Jesus. And that's kind of what David is doing right now. He's writing a psalm and he's bringing it to his people, and they're lifting it up and singing and declaring praise and thanks to God at the occasion of the dedication of a house. We left it off in verse 5, and we've already really talked about verses 6 and 7, where David became a little bit presumptuous before his breaking experience. He said, "In my prosperity, I said, I shall never be moved. Lord, by thy favor, thou hast made my mountain to stand strong." There's a bit of presumption there before the breaking experience, before the near-death experience, where David is assuming that he's in the place of God's blessing, and he deserves it, frankly. But then look at the rest of verse 7. "Thou didst hide thy face, and I was troubled." Things changed. David was living as though he deserved the face of God because he had kind of earned it, and it was making him presumptuous and presumptive. And as a result, God broke David. God humbled him, which he does that in ways that are so loving and so gracious and so intimate to who we are. God knows how to break us without breaking us. God knows how to humble us without crushing us, without grinding us into dust. If it were up to us, ourselves, or each other, we would grind each other to dust. I would grind myself to dust, okay, in terms of my own self-deprecation. But God does it in a way that, like I said, he breaks you without breaking you. He purges, he purifies, he takes out the dross, as the picture of Proverbs puts it. He purifies. So it's not a destroying kind of breaking, it's a purging and maturing kind of breaking. And yet the experience of it is what David says here, "Thou didst hide thy face, and I was troubled." So you notice that David's not really talking about the particular circumstances that troubled him as much as the feeling or the sense or the potential possibility that, oh no, God's turned against me. Now, isn't that what we assume? It's never true. If you know Jesus, God never really turns away from you. He never rejects you. He never has a reason to, okay, because Jesus has resolved all of those reasons through the gospel. And yet the experience is, God's turned away from me. When you are in a good place and you feel like you deserve it and you've accomplished it, even if you're thanking God for it, there's a bit of presumption in the thanks, and then God removes it. God takes away his favor, and you go through a hard time, or you have a near-death experience, or you deal with suddenly a diagnosis or a sickness or a loss or a tragedy of some kind. In that moment, the immediate sense of, oh no, God's forsaken me. Where did God go? And that's troubling. But what is troubling is not, oh, I'm going to lose my life or I'm going to lose my health. Those things might be about 1 inch deep troubling, but there's a deeper trouble. There's a deeper panic and paranoia, and that is, oh no, I've lost the favor of the God of the universe. Why is that? My friend, there is woven into all of us, into our psyche, into our very core and subconscious, the sense of total dependence on the favor of the God of the universe. Now listen, even people that don't believe in God, they want karma to be on their side. They want the forces that be in the universe to land in their favor. They want Mother Nature. They want Mother Earth. They want the spirit guides. They want some supernatural being or power or presence to be leaning into their favor. Why? Because none of us want to be on this planet without some sort of supernatural hope. None of us. And so David has the sense that God's turned his face from him and that he's lost the favor of God. And that is a terrifying experience. Thou didst hide thy face, and I was troubled. Look at verse 8. I cried. He did the right thing. I cried to thee, O Lord, and unto the Lord I made supplication. The idea of supplication is to bring your requests. It's to ask God for his grace and his mercy and his pity and his kindness. It's to humble yourself. It's to come undeservedly to God and in humility to submit to him and to respectfully ask for relief or security or a sense of his presence. And then he, again, as we've talked about earlier, verse 9, he respectfully negotiates with God. God, what good am I if I'm in the pit, if I'm in the grave? What profit is there in my blood when I go down to the pit? Shall the dust praise thee? Shall it declare thy truth? And then verse 10, hear, O Lord, and have mercy upon me. Lord, be thou my helper. God, I know I don't deserve your favor. I know I don't deserve your help. I know that you are perfectly just to do whatever you say is best because you are perfect. You are holy. And God, thank you that you are holy. Thank you that none of the events of my life are a mistake and none of them are unfair in terms of the long view and how you're going to execute justice. So God, I'm asking you for mercy. To ask God for mercy is to say, I cannot appeal to you on the grounds of my goodness. I cannot appeal to you on the grounds of my own performance or behavior. I'm flawed and failed, and I'm guilty. And so I'm just going to beg you for mercy. You ever been pulled over by a police officer and you know he's got you dead to rights? I got pulled over back in late winter. I was down visiting Dr. Sisk, and we were driving up through Tennessee into Kentucky to visit some of his childhood and young adult places of ministry and churches he pastored, and just spending a couple days together. And we drove past a Tennessee trooper that had somebody pulled over, and there were people coming up behind me in the left lane, and I didn't get over, and I wanted to, but I kind of tried to slow down a little bit, but I stayed in the lane closest to the trooper. Well, that guy got into his car, and he whipped out into traffic, and I mean, he sped up behind me and put on his lights, and next thing I know, I'm being pulled over, and I have no idea what I did. I mean, I'm not speeding. I didn't do anything illegal. And he came to the passenger window where Dr. Sisk was sitting, and I rolled that down, and we began to talk very respectfully to him. And that guy was so mad at me that I didn't get over a lane and wasn't aware of his safety. Now I appealed and said, sir, there were people coming up behind me, and I couldn't get over, but that didn't matter. Now in that case, I feel a sense of injustice. I feel like I'm being handled unreasonably. I still very respectful and frankly thanked the man for his service, and I understood why he was upset because he felt that his safety was, in question, and I respect that. A couple years ago, though, I got pulled over after making an illegal U-turn. Policeman was right behind me. I didn't see him. Wasn't thinking. It was just a split-second decision. Next thing I know, I'm pulled over, and I just know that guy's got me dead to rights. And I'm positive I'm going to get a ticket. I deserve it. I'm not even going to argue with him. I'm just going to be respectful, take my punishment, pay my fine. I'm totally guilty. And the man comes to my window, and I rolled the window down, and he's laughing, and he goes, man, that was not smart. And I just put my head down. I said, I know. I said, I'm sorry. I said, I just remembered I got to go to Walmart, and Walmart's behind me. So I whipped an illegal U-turn. And before I thought about it, he said, I knew you didn't see me. I said, no, I didn't see you. But even if I had, I just didn't even think about it. I just whipped around. I had a minute where I could see it was clear, and I just made the decision. Well, he took my driver's license, my insurance, went back to his car. It happened to be the day before my birthday. It was February 2nd. And he came back to the car with my license and registration, and he handed it back to me, and he goes, "Well, Mr. Schmidt, happy birthday." And I looked at my wife. She's laughing at me and just shaking her head like, "Oh, you deserve this." And I looked at him and I said, "Well, thank you, sir." And I thought he was kind of being snarky, handing me a ticket. You know, this ticket, this $200 fine is your birthday gift from the city of Cromwell. And when I said, "Well, thank you," and I looked at him like, "What's coming next?" He said, "I'm just going to give you a warning." And I'm telling you, everything in me just released. That's called mercy, okay? Knowing what I deserve, but then experiencing something totally different. And there was no appeal I could have made to that police officer on legal grounds. There's no grounds on merit or behavior by which I could deserve his favor. And what did he do? He gave me mercy. You know what David is saying here in verse 10 is the same thing. God, give me mercy. And then he goes a little further, be my helper. Lord, I'm so broken. I need you to help me. And we're going to leave it there. So my friend, today is Wednesday, and it's the day before Thanksgiving. I'm sure you're busy getting ready for family and friends and whatever you've got planned tomorrow. But take a minute right now and thank God that when you had no grounds, no legal grounds on which to appeal to him for his favor, he's merciful. And he granted you his favor through Jesus. So thank him today for his mercy, and I'll see you tomorrow.